What happened in the 1800s, and why does this rock look like a person? Most of these incredible buildings were supposedly built in the 1800s. People didn't know how to do anything for hundreds and thousands of years until our amazing society showed up. Is that true? Or are we getting an ego boost to distract us from the truth? History tells us that we are the greatest, and we are, right? Well, that building is amazing, but we're still the best. Okay, that building is even better. What is that? Wait, they had wireless energy? What is going on? Fine, I'll admit it. The mainstream narrative is lying. What a great way to get people to believe the narrative. Tell them that they're the best. Who is going to question that? I guess some like us will, but the majority won't, for now. We look around and most of these incredible ancient buildings were taken over by banks or the USA. The USA and banks were both created, and what do you know? Right after that, we get all these brand new inventions. If we had these buildings in the 1800s, there's no doubt they had technology that is also hidden from our history. Other types of technology other than just building. If this timeline is planned, then all previous history is false or extremely altered. If this is true, and this isn't the first time the car and the light bulb were invented, where are we? And when was the first time it actually was invented? How long ago? What are the odds that the USA is formed in 1776 and 16 years later the stock market comes to be in 1792? How does that happen? And why do both of these things get all the great buildings? Have you seen photos of this building? If you've watched any of my previous videos, you will know that this building was found, claimed, and repurposed. Absolutely incredible architecture. 12 years after the stock market's formed, we have the first train. What are the odds? So these people needed to get around, right? So in 1804, we have the first train. In 1817, the first bicycle was created. So a servant to the Duke of Germany made the bike. A servant. This reminds me of the stories where the prisoners built all the Capitol buildings. What a joke. Nothing happened for hundreds and thousands of years, but in the matter of like 20 years, we got the USA, we got the stock market, the first train, and now we got a bike. And this is just crazy. Of course, we have to wait a long time now, till 1863 for anything else to happen. What torture. 1863, soccer was created. They had no games before this. Nobody played any games. No fun, no getting around, nothing. For thousands of years. No fun. Finally, we have some fun in 1863, and we have the first phone in 1876. So you can see we're getting some fun, we're getting some toys, we're doing some technology, we're introducing it to the community once again, in my opinion. That same year, 1876, we got another game created, the Major League Baseball. So now we have two games. Now things are getting fun. So the mainstream narrative can't figure it out. They don't know where baseball came from. They say maybe from a game called tut-ball, stool ball, Flanders, rounders. They just don't know. Then in 2005, someone wrote a book called Baseball Before We Knew It. And they don't know what the heck is going on. People are starting to use trains and bikes and phones and sports, all in the matter of a few years. Go figure. Nothing happens for thousands of years, but as soon as the USA opens up, everything starts happening. What are the odds? It's starting to rain here, if you can hear it. I'm sorry. In 1878, the first light bulb. So now we've got electricity. 2 years after the phone, we are pumping this stuff out, guys. I mean, we got the phone, we got the light bulb. People are just brilliant in this time period, huh? Creating games. Oh wait, what? Only 8 years later we got the first car? This is no way. If you believe this narrative, if you believe that everything just happens at the same time and nothing happened ever before this, then I'm sorry. This is not possible. 1895, we got the first power tool, okay? No more chisels, we have tools. Just incredible what's happened in the last few years. What were people doing in the 1400s? They must have been bored with no lights, no cars, no nothing. What were they doing in 2,000 years ago? I have no idea. I mean, oh my gosh, they must have been hiding in a cave, if you believe the mainstream narrative. Well, 8 years after the first power tool, we definitely need to start flying a plane, right? So in 1903, we got the first plane. Let's just start flying these things around. The Wright brothers were so smart. Their mom must have been so proud. The first airplane flew 852 feet on its fourth and final flight, supposedly. But get this, it was damaged while landing. And minutes later, a powerful gust of wind blew it over and wrecked it. Couldn't write that any better. It had to get blown over by wind. And then, in 1920, the NFL was created. So we've got tons of games, tons of tech. We are just going. Our society is the best ever. I mean, you'd think that all of this would be created over a long period of time. It just comes right out, right after the next one, right after the next one, right after the next one, because 7 years later, in 1927, we get the first TV. People are making cars, planes, trains, TVs, power tools, electricity. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But of course, the USA, the government, and the stock market were first. They were before all of this. Right before all of it. Not way before all of it, just right before. Right before. In 1936, we have the first computer. So now we have TVs, computers. I mean, what's next? 1946, the NBA started. So basketball starts with the most ridiculous story of all time. They started the game of basketball with a peach basket and a soccer ball. You know, all of us, we all just make games on our free time with peach baskets that turn into multi-billion-dollar industries. And in 1983, the internet was created. Just incredible. This timeline is so short, yet you've got everything you need, and you had nothing before this. How do you go from nothing to everything? This is proof, in my opinion, that they had all this stuff. They know how to run a society from scratch. They implant it right into our society after a few years, and here we are today. All right, it's been about 5 months since we discussed possibly the main point in all of this, and possibly the biggest, clearest giveaway that is given to us through the mainstream narrative. And that is that nearly every major invention, from planes to trains, cars to phones, computers and light bulbs, radios and major sports organizations, everything was given to us in the last 300 years. They went from cavemen all the way to the society that we know it now, all due to evolution. No, there's a different, much more logical explanation than to think that people were writing letters with duck feathers until us geniuses came around, and we are going to dive way deeper down this truth hole today. We are told that the USA begins in 1776. Immediately after, 16 years later, we have the stock market open up. And as we have talked about before, and this is where evolution, for whatever reason, finally starts to work. For once. And the whole world supposedly becomes so intelligent and starts creating flying crafts and engines and phones, trains, TVs, and the rest of it. This is absolutely insane to believe. Then we have Australia that comes into the picture in 1901. The main issue that we have here is that we have the construction from the past civilization that is sitting here staring at us right in our faces. Buildings that we do not recreate today in 2023. Cities such as Budapest that have a coffee shop, a parliament building, and chocolate museums that look straight out of the movies. We have identified nearly 100 fire stories to this point, where buildings that are said to be built in the 1800s that clearly are from the old world are completely destroyed due to a fire, even though they're mostly made of stone, which is not flammable. Understanding this massive historical lie, understanding that there was a previous civilization right before us that is no longer here. Where they went or what even took place that removed them from this place is what we want to know. They left all of their structures here for us to see. In my opinion, they left all of their technology. They were able to construct the St. Mark's Basilica in 4 years. From 828 to 832, but didn't have a light bulb? Give me a break. They built the inside with candlelight. Oh, and don't forget that it lasts forever. Unlike anything that we build today, even though this was in a time period before they even knew how to make paper. It really is incredible that once you get it, you don't go back to not getting it. You can see it all very clearly in nearly every town in the world. This past civilization had much more technology that we have not been given back yet. We have been given the car back, the train, the plane, the TV and cell phones, the light bulb and computers, internet and power tools. All major movies have been recreated. They know what we like. Refrigerators, cameras, GPS, video games, all of this in the last 300 years. In my opinion, like I've said, they have had all of this technology, and this includes AI. I'm starting to find the same narrative too many times, all over the world. I am now leaning towards an AI that most likely created all of these insane, ridiculous narratives. For every one of these buildings, the repetition of the plots and the repetition of characters gives it all away. How long has AI, or more specifically this ChatGPT stuff, really been around? Do you think this is the first time? I definitely do not. We get characters from the East Coast that somehow make it over to Chicago and then over to California within a matter of a 1 to 2 year span, with no articles of them ever existing. Or they were store managers and not architects like we have proven. Or they were in Alaska at the time that they were supposed to be in Texas. If you have used ChatGPT, you will fully understand how simple this would be to create a false narrative using AI. And if we are allowed to use ChatGPT, what kind of AI do you think they have? Even languages are very interesting. Were all these languages developed all over the world to keep us from being able to share valuable information with each other, to better ourselves, and to free ourselves from the insane controlled system? In my opinion, I think that's clear and obvious at this point. And it seems like once we become bored or uninterested in the item, they release the next item of technology that the past civilization already had. This group of people have much more to release, to profit off of, and to use to control the masses and manipulate the minds. We have talked about books in the past and how it is important to have them. If this trend continues for another 100 years, where people use books less and less, at a certain point there will not be any books. If our information is wiped from the computers, what will be left? The answer is nothing. Nothing will be left. And this is how history can easily be rewritten, to trick the next civilization into thinking that they are the first ones, and that cavemen in the 800s built the St. Mark's Basilica in 4 years, and so much more. How have we been so naive for so long? Why are we just waking up to the nonsense as a whole? We are fully investigating the historical nonsense that we have been force-fed. Was Columbus even real? I'm leaning towards no. And the fact that we argue whether he was a good guy or a bad guy is exactly what they want us to do. Once you pick either good or bad, it is actually an acknowledgement that he was real, and you are accepting their nonsense. 1492, nobody named Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Not in the Pinta, not the Nina, or the Santa Maria. He didn't trick Indians, none of this happened. These are all mind control tactics that are implemented at a very young age. And songs work the best. In my personal opinion, the fact that everything has been given back to us in the last 300 years systematically proves that there is a group of individuals that are controlling this and giving misinformation about the historical narrative. This is not by accident. It's not mathematically possible for there to be no electricity for thousands of years. And out of nowhere, we have all of this technology. And the same goes for the possibility that every house in your neighborhood has been burned to the ground. That's impossible. Yet nearly every old world building holds a fire story in its narrative. And every major city has had a great fire. And are these fires great? Not for us, but I think for them. To destroy all of the past civilization's things. All happening within the last 200 to 300 years. But why lie about the history? Well, why not? You get to hold on to all the power over all the people. You've done it all before. You know how the system works. You've got all the kinks out in the past civilization. Now you get to control the banking system, all technology, the governments, what the people watch, what the people listen to. You control what is acceptable in society. You control what is not acceptable in society. And what is thought of as crazy. Why wouldn't they reset the system and control it all for their advantage? Releasing old world tech to their advantage when there was already free energy. Some people have asked, why would they lie about all of this? When all people should be asking, why wouldn't they lie about this? Do you think that this place that we live is really designed so that we couldn't supply ourselves with food, with energy, with water? We are manipulated and in a trance. Do even 1% of people supply themselves with food? Why are we told that the sun, the one thing that creates all life, the one thing that grows the healthiest things in the world to eat, and gives vitamins to you is dangerous and should be avoided. Where did our common sense go? I think now is the time that we find it. Bring it back and take control of our lives again. I have said this many times. This is not just about buildings. This is not just about history. This is much deeper and much more important. This is my opinion, of course, but I think this is going to be a good episode to come back to for most people that would like to introduce someone new to this topic of the old world, or a simple reminder of what we've been told is the truth versus what is really going on in front of our faces. Now, I have been seeing a few people across multiple platforms that haven't really looked into this topic that are saying that just because we have done this before and can see the buildings here in front of us, this automatically means that we are able to construct these buildings today if we wanted to, even though we never do and never will. We have all the tools and make mistakes all the time. Our buildings and bridges fall apart after 100 years, but the ones from the 1800s and much longer before that were built with perfection and not one flaw, thrown together in less than a year, without blinking an eye. It was simple. Perfect stonework. Never a mistake. Remember, in 2023, we use actual construction companies. We have the tools. Not slaves, not prisoners, not horses and wagons. We are supposed to be so much better than the people of the 1800s. This is what they tell us. This is the mainstream narrative. Evolution, of course. But we have proven time and time again that the people from the 1800s built Capitol buildings over and over and over in less than a year. Basilicas, cathedrals, all over the world. They get burned to the ground by a fire. And then a few short months later, the old one is all cleaned up and a new one is there forever. They could knock out entire towns in a few months, entire world's fairs. They supposedly were able to build these buildings so fast, so well, with untrained workers, people that have never constructed anything before, prisoners, people that went to jail for any reason at all. They could all build cathedrals in every country, in every town, in every century, except for this one that we're in today. They built so many of them and so fast that they could just afford to knock them all down when they were done. This is what we're told, of course. In my opinion, none of this happened. In my opinion, these buildings are from the previous civilization, and our entire history timeline is a complete fabrication. And this is proven time and time again. And the fire story gives it all away, every time. Let's expose the lies even further. Here we are in Texas, more specifically, 414 St. Joseph Street, Gonzales, Texas. And why are we here? Well, they have the Gonzales County Courthouse. And in my opinion, the narrative is lying. Are we all ready? Here we go. The contract was awarded to Furman Morin on June 26, 1894. But wait, there's something weird going on here. We're told that this wasn't the first courthouse on this site. This is the second building to serve as the county courthouse. Well, what do you mean this wasn't the first one? What happened to the first one? The first Gonzales County Courthouse burned down on December 3rd, 1893. Do you notice how fast they tried to throw that in there? It was like they thought we wouldn't notice or something. Of course we will. This is what we do. Look at how they worded it, too. They didn't even say the first building or the first courthouse. They just quickly say the first burned on December 3rd, 1893. And they just want to move on like nothing happened. So we get the nod. Another fire story. Very interesting. And also the clear giveaway that this is a building from the past civilization. In my opinion, and a reminder that there was never a fire here on this site. This is simply a nod to their group that this building is from the old world. Now, let's continue shredding this nonsense apart. We are told that the second county courthouse was completed on April of 1896. The contract was awarded in June of 1894. They get their superintendent for the construction in 1895. And then in April of 1896, the building is done. And this all happens in basically 2 years after the first one burned down. And it's weird because it takes almost as much time to find the superintendent as it does to actually build the entire building. And it lasts forever. So let's get this straight. They are telling us that December 1893, the first one is in flames. And we have no idea who built that one or anything about it. And don't ask any questions about that one. And then 6 months later, it's gone and all cleaned up by June of 1894. And the contract is ready to roll. And from June 1894, we wait until some point in time in 1895, so at least 6 months, but could have been 18 months. Since they don't share the information, we have to speculate. So let's meet in the middle at 12 months to find a construction guy. And then he knocks this thing out somehow by April of 1896. Who believes that he did this in less than a year? How many people worked for him? It's just weird that they tell us that he was just an owner of a quarry that had limestone in it. Now all of a sudden, he is a construction superintendent guy that builds massive courthouses in a year. Wow, the 1800s were incredible. You could truly be anything you want back then. Amazing. And a total joke of a story. This is absolute insanity that this kind of stuff is what we are supposed to believe actually happened. We all understand that in order to build a massive courthouse, you would need to get all the materials there. We would need to have a proper amount of construction workers that are properly trained. This quarry owner can't just go build it himself. We would need the proper equipment. Incredible architecture. The planning had to be perfect. Using the specs that they give us on this courthouse, I asked ChatGPT a question, and the answer was eye-opening. I asked hypothetically, how long would it take to build a courthouse in 1895? And how many men would you need? I asked if it could give me a breakdown of how much material would be needed, and also include other details that are important in constructing a courthouse that covers 2.7 acres. I explained that it is a building in a Romanesque revival style with eclectic details, meaning it covers other types of architecture designs, and that it will be built with red brick and white limestone trim. Now these are the specs that we are given from the mainstream narrative. This is what they tell us. They tell us this information because they have to. The thing is literally sitting here looking right at us. For anyone that wants to go look at it, you can walk right up to it and see it, or you can see a picture of it as we are right now. So let's see what this AI tells us. We are told that constructing a courthouse in 1895 in the specs that they stated would have been a significant undertaking. And here is the breakdown. Just the design and planning would have taken pretty much a year. Just because it's 1895, you still need permits and approvals. This happened in 1895. This isn't cavemen days, where you just get to build massive buildings and not tell anyone about it. So the fact that they're ignoring this part of the story over and over is crazy. This would have taken another couple months. So then we move on to the materials. We are told that the amount of red brick needed would depend on the design and size of the courthouse. Courthouses that cover 2.7 acres could use hundreds of thousands to millions of bricks. This is an unbelievable amount of material just for bricks alone. The process in getting these materials to the site is not easy. So then the white limestone trim. 100,000 cubic feet of limestone. The wood for interior elements, including flooring, stairs, and doors. A substantial amount of wood would be required. Then we will need steel and glass, and not just any glass. They have to be perfect for windows in the Romanesque revival style. Now, of course, the best part, in my opinion, because they don't even mention any people that helped this quarry owner guy. The labor, the number of workers needed would vary. But constructing such a massive courthouse might require hundreds of laborers. Hundreds? And not a mention of one in this story? And this isn't even to build it in a year. This is just saying to build it in a respectable timeline. So to build it in a year, there had to be way more than hundreds of workers like we're told. Amazing. Okay, you would need bricklayers, carpenters, masons. Oh, did I say that? Steelworkers, and general laborers. When we are told that slaves and prisoners built these places in a year, just remember this and ask yourself if you think this is true or not. Now we have the construction time. Given the scale and complexity, construction could take several years, perhaps 3 to 5 years. The Romanesque revival style, with its ornate details, would require careful craftsmanship, which takes time. So these workers had to have been trained and been good at it, especially finishing it in a year. This is insane. How were these workers not world-renowned? Wouldn't there be statues of them? They probably could have made the statues themselves in their backyards in a couple of days, since they were so good at it. And now, of course, we have the ridiculous part of the transportation. Transporting materials to the construction site. And before we get into this, I want to mention this, that they don't mention this in the story. and I think they don't on purpose, because it is so insane. Here we go. Transporting materials to the construction site would require horses, wagons, and likely a nearby source of limestone. Okay, so the horses and wagons moved the 100,000 cubic feet of limestone from the quarry. What a joke. Now they will need tools, of course. You can't do this without tools. So here's the tools and equipment section. Tools of the time would include hammers, chisels, saws, cranes, and various other hand tools. Just hammering and chiseling away in 1895 to 1896 with their horses and wagons. The fact that they tell us these buildings go up all over the world in a year is such a lie, in my opinion. You'd need a source of water for mixing mortar, and for the workers. If it's a large project, which this one definitely is, you might even need on-site housing for the workers, which they don't have on-site housing for the workers. Have you ever seen a narrative say this? No. They ignore the actual logistics in every narrative. You need people to build these places, and people need things, such as housing, food, water. This is common sense, yet never mentioned. Stone carvers and artisans would be required for this work. What was their names? Did the quarry owner do that himself? No. Which company had pro stone carvers and artisans? And of course, supervision. You'd need a skilled supervisor and project managers to ensure the work proceeds smoothly and to quality standards. And this is literally the only part that we are given. The only part we are given is the person that should be watching over all of the things that actually have to happen. I'm going to put this in sports terms. They're basically telling us the name of the coach for the Patriots, and then forgetting to tell us all about Tom Brady, or the coach's name of the Lakers and the Bulls, and not saying anything about Kobe, LeBron, Michael Jordan, or Dennis Rodman. All we get is Phil Jackson and Frank Vogel. This is insane. This is not working anymore. So I asked it to be more specific with the timeline. I said, so in all, how long would this all take? It responded with this. Given the complexity and scale of constructing a courthouse, covering 2.7 acres in the Romanesque Revival style, with red brick and white limestone trim, in 1895, the entire process could take 1 year to just design and plan it. Another several months to permitting and approvals, several more months to a year for the materials, and 3 to 5 years to build the building. So in total, it mathematically and logistically should take anywhere from 4.5 years to 7.5 years. This is unbelievable, considering so many times we are told that a building goes down in a fire and then another one is built in a few months. This kind of brushing it off with a few months kind of thing isn't working anymore. And I don't want to end the episode yet. I want to go even deeper and even more specific. So I asked, how many horses would they need for this project? And here we go. The horses would be needed for 6 major things in this project in 1895. Transporting, milling and lifting, general labor, site grading and excavation, water and power, cranes and heavy lifting, and getting the cranes there to the site, of course. This would take 20 to 30 horses to finish the project in 4.5 to 7.5 years. Not 1 year. So we all understand. They would need way more than 30 horses. And we all understand that horses need water. Remember, this is for 30 horses for possibly 7.5 years. I want to make that point extremely clear. This is not the 1 year timeline that we're told. Now here we go. Let's absolutely destroy the narrative and end it forever. That any building anywhere in the world, like this one, could not be simply built in a year and just brushed off with zero explanation. How much water would the horses actually need? This is a key point that cannot be ignored, like it is in the mainstream narrative. A typical horse would drink anywhere from 5 to 15 gallons of water per day for a project like this. This is to properly keep the horses hydrated, or they will die, especially in Texas, where it's extremely hot in the summer months. For only 30 horses, you would need 300 gallons of water per day. This is only 10 horses over 7.5 years. Where is all this water coming from? Why is this massive point ignored? The point alone proves that this project did not happen in a year. This is such a horrible slip up for the narrative, and it is the most important part of the logistic project that needs to be taken care of. Without the water supply for the main transportation for the project, none of this happens anywhere in the world in the 1800s. From this point on, a narrative that tells us that they built a building in a year in the 1800s without explaining the massive supply of water for the horses should be looked at as a lie. Incredible. This is a major failure by the narrator, a massive flaw that now opens the floodgates. This narrative is not possible. Did they think that we would never question this? And now we know that this type of construction is not even close to possible. We are waking up to the nonsense. We are educating each other, building a group of people that are not just accepting lies and actually questioning. We are looking into things, and the more we look, the easier it gets. The more answers we find, and the more truth comes through. And the more that we know, the harder and harder it is to lie to us. Once you know the truth, like I always say, you don't go back to not knowing. You are now awake, and you will take this information with you and apply it to the next story, where they will tell you that a building was built in a year by a quarry owner that never built anything before and never again in his entire life.